Talk Show. Recorded live.
Hello and welcome to the Castle Dracula Horror Movie Podcast. On this podcast, we talk about horror movies, vampire movies, and all-around awesomeness. And this week, we conclude our musical horror retrospective with Tim Burton's 2007 film of the Stephen Sondheim musical Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, starring Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, and Alan Rickman. Now, bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have, so warning, spoilers ahead. I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the Alex Van Helsing series of adventures from HarperCollins. With me are my usual crew, Drew Edwards, the creator of the long-running horror webcomic Halloween Man, which you can find at halloweenman.com. Say hello, Drew.
Hello.
Tony Salvaggio, co-creator of the Victorian Met comic Clockworks, coming this spring from Humanoids in an awesome hardback. I'm very excited. And co-writer of the manga Psycom from Right Stuff and Tokyo Pop, and lead singer of the band Deserts of Mars, and bassist for the Japanese band Bakari Shred. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. And color commentary, as usual, from attorney Julia Guzman. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. This is our last musical horror, and it is a doozy. It is, well, let's just get into it. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is a 2007 horror musical film directed by Tim Burton. It's an adaptation of the Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler Tony Award-winning 1979 musical. It retells the Victorian melodramatic tale of Sweeney Todd, an English barber and serial killer who murders his customers with a straight razor and, with the help of his accomplice, Mrs. Lovett, processes their corpses into meat pies. So that's a heck of a story. I want to get first impressions, and then we've got some really good stuff to cover, and we're going to try and cover it within an hour for once. All right. First impressions. Let's go same as last week. Julia, Drew, Tony, and Jason. Julia, your first impressions of Sweeney Todd.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm just a sucker for anything with Johnny Depp in it. I just love him. So it's always going to be, I'm never going to not like a movie that he's in. It's just a question of how much I like it. I like this movie a lot. It's a little bit too gory for me. I don't enjoy all the blood and that stuff. But I like it, and I like that the music is the right. It's the right kind of music, the right range for people who aren't professional singers but are decent singers, which is like Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. They both can sing it fine, as opposed to my complaint last week, which was that the music of Phantom really required an opera singer, and they got somebody who was not a trained singer. But that's not the case here. It's all perfectly palatable music that.
Within Johnny Depp's range is the.
Yeah, exactly. He sings it well, and he does, and he sings well. I mean, he's a good singer, but they don't challenge they're not pushing him. They're not trying to get him to sing, outside of his range. So I really enjoy it visually. I mean, Tim Burton's just such a brilliant guy. So there's so many neat little tricks. There's some things I don't care for, but for the most part, I really like this movie.
All right. Okay, so. That's actually a strong start. I wonder if there's going to be anybody who's not that crazy about this movie. So and also beyond whether you like it, anything that you know that you're going to come back to. Drew, first impressions.
Well, this is a movie that it seems like every time I watch it, I get a different opinion on it. The very first time I saw it in the theater, I loved it. Then I revisited it shortly thereafter on DVD and found that I kind of hated it. Mm-hmm. And I watched it again about a year later at the behest of my older brother, and I was, kind of ho-hum with it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. This time around, I've come back around to really liking it, with the exception of that I think Helena Bonham Carter is a terrible singer.
Okay. All right. Good impressions. You're wavering back and forth. Tony, what are your thoughts on Sweeney Todd to start with?
I actually liked it. This is my second time viewing it. I don't know why I waited so long to see it again. I want to say I saw this one at Budnamathon too, but I'm not positive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, because Rain hates seeing movies if I've already seen them. And I got to tell her it was really gory. So I saw it at some point where I saw it at some event, and she didn't see it, and she was always like, "Oh, it sounds so gross. I don't know if I want to watch it." So there was some time where she was averting her eyes because it's pretty gross. It's pretty gory. But overall, I liked it better this time.
Yeah.
And I'd even had kind of a Tim Burton fatigue for a little bit. Not the out-and-out kind of hate that some people, like backlash hate that some people have, but just I was kind of like, well, and then I saw it again. I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Some of the choices he made, and the cinematography and set design and everything. Great cast too. So I actually liked it better this time after having given it some distance.
Right. No, I kind of had the same impression. I remember being sort of it had left me with almost nothing. In other words, for some reason, I probably saw it back in 2007, and I had almost no memory of it. Now I come back to it, and I found it visually was, really beautiful. I thought this is probably one of the best adaptations we've seen. I mean, there are some changes that I'm not crazy about Tim Burton making, but, any of these musical horror movies that we've been watching, they're all based on stage shows, and there's always going to be changes. I'm sad that they lose the opening number of the show, but that's okay.
Well, Rain remembered that from I think it was The Office.
Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd. Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Well, the thing is, you don't really need that because it's all visual. The movie doesn't need it as much.
I know.
But yeah, I can understand. I mean,
so in fact, that'll be enough of my opening thoughts, and let's just go right into this conversation of missing that opening number. So basically, yes, Stephen Sondheim wrote this as a stage show, and it opens with this number where all the cast comes out and they sing this sort of, I don't even know how to put it, a kind of a chorus where they tell you to attend the tale of Sweeney Todd, right? And it's very almost, it's a parody almost. I mean, it's a very funny, parodic, in other words, this is so dark that it has to be kind of a joke. And I knew it from two places. I knew it because back in the early 80s, they used to play the Broadway version of this show with Angela Lansbury on TV. Because most of the Broadway stuff I've seen, I don't live in New York, I live in Texas. So most of the Broadway stuff I've seen, I saw through taped performances that were on like Showtime and HBO and all that stuff. Right. So Sweeney Todd was on back then, and I know that I saw it, and because PBS was running it. But also, I remember when Julia was in law school, we saw an a cappella group called Habeas Chorus at Georgetown University do the Tale of Sweeney Todd, which is such an embarrassing detail that I love to just say it.
That's awesome. I don't know.
It was right before they did an a cappella version of Duran Duran's Rio, if I recall.
Wow, that's quite the segue.
But anyway, okay, so attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd. Tim Burton said, we don't need that song because we don't need the chorus to come out and tell us all about what's going to happen. We're going to get right into it. But the problem is that, and he's right, that's a stagey thing to do. It's not really a movie thing to do. But Little Shop of Horrors did it. Little Shop of Horrors opens with their big overture number, where those the Motown girls kind of walk around that stage singing about the Little Shop of Horrors before we begin the story. And what do you feel about am I wrong to make a thing of this?
I guess having not seen it taped, like you said, it didn't really bother me. I mean, I knew it was missing, and I knew it was a cool song, but I didn't miss it. Like, oh no, it's just going to break down without that.
It bothers me just because it's the title of the movie. So I'm like, it should be, it's not like they just cut out a random song. It's the actual title. It'd be like cutting out Grease from the beginning of Grease. Well, I guess they do that in the musicals, don't they? Do they sing Grease in the?
That's a good question. Do they have the Frankie Valli Grease song at the beginning of Grease? I have no idea. No, I'll bet you that there are now touring versions of Grease that use the Frankie Valli song. But that I've no idea. That's a good example, by the way, of a Broadway show that got lots of songs added and switched around when it got made into the movie. Anyway, let's go right into Sweeney Todd himself. All right.
Well,
I had never heard of.
I really do want to say that the intro is pretty awesome. Like the title credits, I had forgotten.
Oh yeah.
Weird, crazy, stylized, and gory, and muted. You know, and it's part CG, but it's done really well. I'd totally forgotten about that.
It's like deliberately CG, isn't it? I mean, it's not intended to look. It's intended to. It reminded me, and Drew, it probably did. This remind you of like the Edward Gorey stuff from the old Masterpiece Theater? I mean, I was really getting a gory, no pun intended, vibe off of this with the, It never for a moment looks like real gears or real blood. It looks like really cool animation,
Yeah.
Just like Pink Floyd's The Wall, it's in fact, it reminded me a lot of Pink Floyd's The Wall in a way. So you're right. And, think about that with those gears and the blood moving through it. And remember that it was Tim Burton who also did the 1989 Batman, which has a very similar opening. There's just no blood in it,
right?
Where you move along that wrought iron of the bat symbol, and you don't really know what you're moving through until you pull out, and it's that enormous Batman symbol, which, by the way, got like a huge ovation in the audience that I was at. But
that's cool.
Well, it was '89. Nobody had ever seen anything like that before.
No, it was awesome.
It really was. Okay. So the main character of Sweeney Todd is the one and the only Sweeney Todd, who is actually is a name that is adopted by a man named Benjamin Barker, who at the beginning returns to London with this great song called "There's No Place Like London." And has anybody heard it? And if nobody's heard of it, it's okay. But has anybody here heard of the tale of Sweeney Todd before this? Because apparently this is an old legend. Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
we did it in high school. They did it before you came to our. Jason and I went to high school together, but before you got there, they did the musical at the high school.
I'm not talking about the Sondheim musical from 1979. I'm talking about the fact that apparently there's a tradition.
There's people who actually even believe that Sweeney Todd was a real person,
although
that's highly disputed.
Yeah.
And was Sweeney Todd a real person? Are we to assume that he probably was not?
Well, it's a highly debated fact. I'm skeptical of the idea that Sweeney Todd was a real person. Although there are certainly historical murderers and historical cannibals. But the reason why people believe this is that the first time Sweeney Todd was ever talked about, it was in a true crime. Well, what they used to call a penny dreadful, and that's basically was like a pulp novel or even like a comic book of its day. Yeah. And there is a story called String of Pearls, and it is the very first mention of Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. But the character became so popular that it's almost impossible at this point to kind of. He was the Freddy Krueger of his day. He was, and it's almost impossible to weed your way through. But there are in fact people who believe Sweeney Todd was a real person.
So this character of Sweeney Todd, this tradition, I guess you'd say, you're suggesting basically it's a traditional character, and no more to be taken as real than Mac the Knife, for instance. It's just I have a DVD. I've never watched the movie, but I have a DVD of a 1935 version of
with Todd Slaughter.
Yes. Wow. Yes. The very well named Todd Slaughter stars in that. And so
not a stage name, by the way.
Well, I mean, so yeah, it'd be fun to see Todd Slaughter team up with Max Schreck. Okay. So anyway, Sweeney Todd, as we see him in this particular movie, and he comes in and sings about coming back to London, which is this pit, this sore, this horrible place. He's Johnny Depp, only with amazing skunk hair with this great, sort of this black wig that makes him look sort of like a black-haired Beethoven with this long white shock going through the middle of it. And he cuts a very imposing figure. I mean, it's a pretty neat looking character. What Julia, would you like to give basically the backstory of Sweeney and why he's returning to London?
Well, he had a love, and that's the first song after they come in on the ship, because he comes in on the ship, is the story of him and his wife, and she was beautiful. He talks about how she was, there was a barber and his wife, and she was beautiful, and they have this beautiful baby. And I'm going to call him Snape, because that's what I kept thinking the whole time. But Alan Rickman is kind of in love with Johnny Depp's wife, or obsessed with her, or whatever, and manages to lure her to this party where he attacks her. I'm guessing he rapes her and possibly abuses her. I'm not exactly sure what happens. And but Johnny Depp believes that she's gone off. My understanding is, anyway, that she's gone off with Alan Rickman because she disappears, and everybody says, I don't know. That's the impression I got. But anyway, so Johnny Depp, I guess, takes off, which is kind of a weird thing to me. That
he's sent away. He's convicted of a crime.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay, I missed
that part.
The judge
has Sweeney.
Right, he's the judge. Alan Rickman's the judge, correct?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so he has. Oh, I didn't understand that. That was like, how did he just disappear and not take his child? Okay,
right.
That makes more sense. So, anyways, he's sent away, and so he comes back. But so his name was Benjamin Barker. Sorry, Benjamin Barker. And so I was about to say Bob Barker because that's what I think of when I think of Barker.
Because The Price is Right.
Right, exactly. And so anyway, so when he comes back now as a completely different, as you were describing, horror kind of character. And by the way, as an aside, I just read in the trivia that the character Sam Mendes was originally attached to direct it with Russell Crowe in the title role, which makes me laugh because we keep coming back to Russell Crowe being a crappy singer. It's just like this movie would have been so much worse if Russell Crowe had been singing those songs. But anyway, so now he's back and he's going to get his revenge on Alan Rickman for taking his family.
The great thing here is that the plot's quite simple. Sweeney walks right into London, and his plan is, I'm back in London. We get a little bit of backstory that somehow or another he got picked up by the ship that he's on. He's back in London, and he's going to go straight to figure out what's the soonest that he can wind up cutting Alan Rickman's throat. It's very simple. I guess he also would like to get his daughter back, but the main one seems to be, I'm going to kill Alan Rickman.
And even to find out what happened to his wife, because he doesn't know what happened to his wife, and so he meets up with Helena Bonham Carter's character, who Mrs. Lovett, who has always been taken with him, and so she tells him that his wife Lucy took arsenic, and because she was so distraught, and that's all she says, and he assumes that means she has died. And so he can then carry on with Mrs. Lovett, and very soon with Mrs. Lovett, they start the essential plot of the story, which is, if the goal of Sweeney is, I want to kill Alan Rickman for ruining for raping my wife and leading to my wife's death and whatever with my daughter, I don't know. So the actual plot is, hey, I just met Mrs. Lovett, and we're going to start killing people and making meat pies out of them, which I just find. And the song where they start to put that plan together is so fantastic. I just love it because they're like looking at all these different people walking by her little pie shop and talking about what they would taste like on the menu. It's so bizarre. And I think it's called Jason, Try Some Priest, right? Yeah, well, I don't know what it's called, but that's one of the lines, and it's like, different things, like what would taste, how the lawyer would taste, and how whatever. And it was so weird, but I was thinking, I wonder if this is what it's like, not the singing part, of course, but I wonder if this is what it's like when you get these crime couples, crime pairs. And because I've always wondered about that. I'm always like, how is it that these people come upon this decision? Like when we're just chatting, just chatting with Tony. How does it come up that we both want to kill people? I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Like who's going to admit that first and be okay with it?
Well, but first he gets his implements back. He gets his barber. He gets his everything, like
his love
blades.
or whatever he calls it.
Yeah, he gets his blades back,
Friend.
but I also love. I love this London that they're in, where like, yes, it's rainy in London, but there's just no sun in this London, like, ever, other than in his memory, where he looks like Edward Scissorhands in his memory.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, he totally did.
Just has that, and then it's sunny, but now everything is dark. Like, no one has seen the sun ever. Everyone's just ghastly pale, and I remember I had the note that even her pie shop is the hot topic of pie shops. Like, just the way everything is set up, and just like, and that's cool. I mean, that's Tim Burton, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But it is bleak. Like, every part is bleak.
But it's so bleak
when he comes back.
And to Drew's point, we'll get to how it actually ends up being a pretty punchy thing. But at this point, it's so bleak that it really plays like comedy. It seems absurd. And I don't mean that like Tim Burton is making fun of darkness. I think that this is Tim Burton just generally creating this sort of wonderland of gothic, darkness. Because it's Blade Runner dark. Everybody's pale. They're all wearing awesome Victorian clothes with zero color. There's a pair of young lovers. There's the ingenue, which is his daughter. This seems to be a plot lifted completely from Les Miserables. But you've got the daughter, whose name I can't recall right now, and she's being raised by the uncle, by the judge.
Yes.
And then you have the young man, the sailor, who Johnny Depp sailed in with, who is in love with the daughter. And so
Joanna. The daughter's name is Joanna.
Joanna, of course, because there's that wonderful song, Joanna. And you've got their plot is like the only ray of sunshine, although there's no actual sunshine in it. They just, And when we first see Joanna,
she also looks like an Edward Gorey character.
Yes,
frail, like you could. It would not be. You could apply like maybe one or two Photoshop filters, and it would turn her into an Edward Gorey comic. Yes, like just taking a still of her when she's first introduced.
This would have been an excellent animated film, actually. Come to think of it, and also hearing Julia talk about the crime couples, it makes me think that you could make a really decent musical out of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yeah, totally.
Can you imagine? Hey, what do you want to go the underpass and kill somebody? Oh, okay.
Or Bonnie and Clyde. Has there been a Bonnie and Clyde musical? That seems like it's totally different.
I'm certain. I would think that there would have been a Bonnie and Clyde musical by now.
I'm sure someone's done one, but
Rain can get right on that one. It'd be cool to have all this Depression era stuff.
That would be cool.
Yeah, polka dot dresses and stuff. All right. So, in fact, we talked a little bit about Tim Burton's world, but let's talk a little bit about the music and the songs in particular, because we've been doing all of these musical horrors, and when we wrap up, we're talking about what we've learned from musical horror. But just now, so for me personally, the music of Sweeney Todd is certainly not as catchy as anything in like Little Shop of Horrors, which we watched. And we've watched the best musical horror that there has been to offer in the past 4 or 5 episodes. But having said that, I think this is some of the most beautifully done. I think Johnny Depp doesn't really miss any notes. I think he seems to be really completely within his comfort zone. It's very possible that it's not hard for somebody who's been trained to sing, But and it's funny. This is a really, really funny script.
Also, like for example, Sacha Baron Cohen's
yes,
Pirelli is awesome, and he's a really good singer.
Well, that was hilarious. I didn't realize that he had worked with Helena Bonham Carter before Les Mis, because they're in Les Mis together. So I guess they're all kind of part of the same. I didn't think of him as being part of that whole, group that sort of
Well, and in a few weeks, we're going to do, after we have our 50th anniversary episode, we're going to, 50th episode, we're going to start Dark Shadows, and so we'll wind up back again with Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. So we'll have exactly, of course, we could have done almost any Tim Burton movie and wound up with...
Yeah, I have to say, and I know the other cast members, are a fan of her, and I think she's fine as far as like the speaking parts, and she's very funny and her timing's good. I really wish he had not used Helena Bonham Carter at this part. I just feel like that her voice is like nails on the chalkboard to me.
Really? So I thought that the Priest song and the By the Sea,
she's very funny, and so and if there was a non-musical version of Sweeney Todd, which there have been many, I would be completely okay with her in this part. It's really just her singing voice.
I'm kind of dying to go back and see what Angela Lansbury was like in this part.
I just don't think she's not supposed to sing pretty because she's weird. I mean, she's a weird character who's going to bake people into her pies. So she's not intended to sing like an angel, I mean, she's supposed to sing kind of. I think the fact that if she sounds like nails on a chalkboard, that's probably a good thing for that character.
She didn't have to sing like an angel. She could have had I think of like the voice I would imagine this character having. I think of like Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees. Like that would be the kind of voice I would almost imagine, where it's weird, but it's still melodic. And I don't know, I really don't like her singing.
The other people that were up for the role were Meryl Streep, Imelda Staunton, I don't know who that is, Cyndi Lauper. Would that have made you happy, Cyndi Lauper?
Cyndi Lauper would have made me happy.
I would have loved to have seen
Cyndi Lauper very well.
And Emma Thompson was the other one. Emma Thompson, who, of course, Helena and her always have to compete for everything, including husbands.
Now, listen, just last week, we watched a scene where, actually, I remember Drew made exactly this point about, now I'm trying to remember whose singing it was. Oh, yeah, Gerard Butler. And you were saying, when his voice cracks, in my mind, I write it into the character, where I'm like, I think that's the cracking of the phantom, rather than I think we basically choose to forgive whoever we're going to forgive. What I love, so I hear you, Drew, that maybe she's not the best singer. I actually am not. For me, it didn't leave any impression on me at all. I was caught up in the comedy because she's really a comedy character. She's the one who comes up with the idea of cooking the people that Johnny Depp kills into meat pies. And it's interesting to me that he's both intent on killing people that deserve killing, and then people who don't deserve killing he appears to be killing just because they'll be better off. Basically, he's just, he's turned into an insane person. I mean, it's really, it's completely, I'm going to say it this way. It's completely inappropriate for him to be killing people so much. And yet,
Such strong language, Jason. Inappropriate.
My point is, there's no way I can wrap my head around the logic of all the killing that he does. So you have to assume that he's totally just a killer. Yeah, he's completely psychotic. He's not. Whatever he is.
Sociopath.
I don't even know anymore. But. he's somewhere off of the reservation that the rest of us are on.
You at least need some anger management.
Yes. Well, but he's killing a lot of these people with a slow burn. He's just singing and he just cuts their throat.
He looks pissed off through the whole movie. I mean, I think this is one of the things I really like about him in this movie. Is he's just seething, and it's great.
Yes. No, he is really good, and it's fun to watch him just want to sort of cut a swath through this London, sort of making his way towards Alan Rickman slowly but surely. And I remember, by the way, on the stage, the way they would do the cuts, and let's get right to the goriness. When he cuts people in this movie, blood just goes, and it flies everywhere. There's massive arterial spray.
Well, and it even starts with, that's how the opening is that hyper CG, blood, stream of blood just kind of running through the town or whatever.
Yes. So there's this hyperblood. Now, I could swear that I've seen it done on stage where they cut the person and a whole bunch of like red streamers come out. That's really sort of interesting.
I've seen where they do that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, I think you would never do that in a movie. That's definitely a stage trick that is enjoyable. But somehow this. I don't really like gory stuff, but somehow this was so fun that I wasn't bothered by the copious amounts of blood in this particular movie.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it was probably off-putting enough that a significant amount of the audience that might have gone to it probably might have skipped it or might have been like, I was really off-put by how much gore there was. But again, it's one of those like, well, you know, there is such a thing as a stage play. Hey, this is my chance to play, and I'm really gonna give it to him, you know.
Yes.
And I think maybe that was the point.
What we're seeing on display here, you know, Tim Burton is heavily associated with the horror genre, but there's only one or two movies that he's done that are actually grisly in this way. In fact, the only one that offhand comes to mind is Sleepy Hollow, and I don't even think it's as gory as this.
No, I don't think so.
No, this is a crazy exercise in grand guignol. I mean, this is really. Yeah.
I mean, you really, really see, you know, the steady diet of, you know, hammer horror that he grew up on. It's like even the color of the blood has that really ridiculously red coloring to it.
Yeah. It's so expressive that for me, it's so clearly a world that's not my own. These are clearly people that I don't know. And so I would go further, Tony, and say what turns people away from this movie, if I can project on these imaginary people that I don't know, but if people were to be turned away, it's not all the blood spurting around, but it's when the movie takes a really dark turn towards the end, and we may as well talk about the ending and then go straight into recapping musical horror. This movie takes this dark turn where we find out, first of all, that the wife is alive, that Johnny Depp's wife, who was raped by the judge and who took arsenic out of her own shame, and the baby.
And if you've ever watched a movie before in your life, you know she's alive from the second they show this darkly hooded woman who you can't see her face at all. So you're like, gee, I wonder who that could be.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
For sure. You didn't think that as soon as you saw that? Because she's just so mysterious. And I'm like, well, that has to be his wife, especially because she's actually talking about Joanna. I mean, the whole point is that she's talking to the guy that's in love with Joanna and watching her, and so she's over there and she knows all this stuff about it. So I'm just like, this has to be her, because otherwise, what would be the point of having her be so mysterious?
I guess that's correct, except for that a lot of times you'll have these sort of chorus characters. I was willing to go with it, so it was a surprise to me. Of course, I think it was a surprise to me, and that was back in 2007. This time I knew it was coming. But that's pretty dark, because now you realize that it's her, but he only figures that out after he's already cut the woman's throat, because they are in the process of, you know, and that's not the only dark turn. I mean, there's a long period in the middle where everything seems to be going great in a weird little way for Mr. Todd and Mrs. Lovett, as they are killing people, making meat pies. They've adopted the kid. They've taken in the kid who was helping a rival barber who Johnny Depp has slain. And so they have this little family going on. But it all just sort of goes sour. So if the audience is sort of getting into all of that, even though these are bad people, you're kind of wishing for a happy ending for them. And eventually, of course, the movie can't give it to you. It's going to just sort of move us inexorably closer to these people falling apart.
I think it can't turn out super well.
Yeah,
the fact, I love the scenes, also extremely very Edward Gorey influenced scenes where they're going to the beach and they're going everywhere and everyone's having a good time except brooding Johnny Depp, Sweeney Todd.
Oh, that is the funniest.
It's awesome. Like that's so good. But like you can tell, like there's nothing good can come of this. I mean, you have all of London eating people pie.
Yes.
because it gets super popular. It's
It's like
everybody wants to go there.
Yeah. I don't know what she calls her pies, but you have this Soylent Green thing going.
Exactly.
Yeah, people love it, and that whole sequence. And I know there's probably something deeper there about Johnny Depp is proving that people. That people are so awful that they're truly happiest when devouring one another and blah, blah, blah. But we've got this wonderful parody going. You're absolutely right. The crazy scenes where Tim Burton just goes wild with By the Sea, where Mrs. Lovett is fantasizing that they're going to have this wonderful life together as this little family, and they're wearing their weird little gothic clothing as they go to the beach and go to this sort of sunny resort. It's all great.
And they get married, and he is just brooding through the vows as well.
And I mean, that's really Tim Burton.
Photoshop meme is replacing Johnny Depp's face with Grumpy Cat for that whole sequence.
Johnny Depp is not impressed.
There you go, Internet. Take that and do something.
Oh no, it is. It's delightful, and that's really where I'm most happy with this, because I'm like, wow, that's something that I'm glad that I saw. It's a wonderful, memorable image, and it's something. I mean, I watch so many movies that honestly, all I want anymore is like one scene that puts a cool image into my head that I can go back to and think, well, that's interesting. That brought something into my life, and that brings something into my life. That scene of them on the beach is great. Yeah, and then it all comes crashing down. It all starts to fall apart as the plot to get close to Rickman gets closer and closer.
Is that when it starts to fall apart?
Right. Well,
I think
for
some
one
of the
thing,
people fall apart pretty quick.
The first weak link is that the boy comes to suspect that this pie shop is. Well, okay. He comes to suspect that Mr. Todd is killing people, but he hasn't quite put together that Mrs. Lovett is in on it, and so he thinks of her as a mother figure, and so he vows to protect her from Sweeney Todd, thinking he's the killer. But she actually immediately plots to lock him away and try to figure out what to do with him, and maybe to kill him. And. So that's fallen apart. Now the boy is on kind of the enemy's list, especially when he goes down below and he sees that they've had to render all of these bodies, and that's a complicated thing, and it leaves it leaves evidence around. I guess those were jaws and teeth and things like that he saw on the.
He saw a finger and like bones.
He got a finger in one of his pies. Yeah, but anyway. So he finds all the evidence, and then he, they can't keep that kid around.
Once he's down there, that's on purpose. I mean, that's not an accident that he finds all that. She has decided.
No, she locks him away. Right.
He has to die because he suspects now. Because he tells her, I want to protect you because I think that he's a bad man, and so I want you to know that I have your back, basically. And then she decides that he can't live because he knows the truth, which is really horrible. I mean, that really makes her a very bad guy.
Yeah, it's very shocking.
She's already a bad guy. But
you don't expect that she's going to suddenly decide, wow, I've got to kill this kid because I want to be with Johnny Depp. I mean, you would expect it to go the other way. You'd expect her to decide, what, I've changed my mind. I want to protect this kid, and I'm,
well, especially because they're actually singing that song about I forget what the actual lyric is, but how they're like protecting each other. Like nothing will ever happen, nothing bad will happen to you as long as I'm around, something like that. And they both sing it to each other, and then she's like, not only is she going to kill him, but she also is lying about it. I mean, it's just kind of adding insult to injury. So so once he's down there,
it's really dark.
Yeah.
And so that's the point where you're like, wow, this is darker than I thought it was going to go. And then I don't even remember exactly. Basically, in quick succession, a lot of people get killed. The former spouse gets killed, before Johnny Depp even realizes that it's her, because at this point he will just cut anybody's throat. He finally kills the judge. He almost kills the daughter, and the only good thing is that at least the ingenue and, in theory, the sailor, who will get there eventually, are, I guess, going to go off and have a happy ending of their own. So, and so ends the tale of Sweeney Todd.
And the kid manages to. Did you say that? I missed it.
Yeah, how did he get away? I don't even remember how the kid gets away.
The kid kills Sweeney Todd. I mean, he just.
Oh, that's right. He's the one who ices Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, because what happens is that Sweeney Todd.
Right, he comes up behind him.
Sweeney Todd has gone so crazy that, like you said, he's killing everyone. So he actually kills his own wife, and because he doesn't realize that she is her. And then when he comes down to find the kid is when whatever he comes down for, he sees her in the light. And Helena Bonham Carter is terrified that he's going to find out because she's the one.
He actually confronts her and was like, "Hey, how could you?"
Oh yeah.
Wait, you.
No, but what I was going to say is she was terrified, so she was going to incinerate her before he could see her. But then he sees her that it's her, and so then that's when he confronts her. And
that's Mrs. Lovett gets it.
Yeah.
Horrifically
pushes her into a fire.
Yeah, he totally does the Hansel and Gretel.
That's right.
It was horrible. It was horrific. And then that's when the kid, when he goes and is like holding Lucy in his arms, that's when the kid comes up and kills him.
And so, Todd and Lucy, the spouse, are dead together. And like I say, the kid gets away, and we can only presume that the young lovers will get away. So.
Except even that's a bummer, because even Joanna, tells him like, we thought this would work out, but it'll probably never ever work out. So like, there's no happy ending. I mean, the kid becomes a murderer.
Yes.
And has seen all this horrific
stuff.
I
always kind of have my read of it that the kid basically has become Sweeney Todd at that point.
I think that's a strong.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I think so. That would work out. But she tells the sailor like, well, not we're kind of in different places. I mean, this probably won't work out that well. That's before she gets attacked by her dad.
Yes.
So I don't know. There's not much happy in gloomy underground dark city London.
Yeah.
Dark city London. No, absolutely. So all right. We need to get to this so that we can wrap up. What have we learned? Okay, we have been doing musical horror. This is the strangest retrospective we've done, and so we've been doing musical horror for several weeks, and this is our last one. And this is also, I might add, our 49th episode. So our next episode will be a very special 50th episode. But this is our 49th, and it's the final musical horror. What do you think about having done this particular retrospective? Did it work out?
It was my idea, so I thought it was brilliant.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I think it's been a blast, and I think there's a lot more musical horror to explore. And I think people. I was talking to somebody. I took a screenwriting class, and I was talking to a guy here in Austin who puts on a bunch of plays, and a lot of his stuff was mixing, like serial killers and in with musical numbers. There's something about the mix of a really dark subject that you can make lighter by song that I think somehow it's like salted caramel, you don't, or cheese on apple pie. You don't think it sounds like it would work, but there's something about the two that if you dig that, it works really well.
Mhm.
I think there's also something very naturally operatic about the horror genre, in that you're living in this elevated world that's so obviously not the world that we live in, which is kind of the same place that musicals take place in. And, you're with these larger-than-life figures. I mean, it doesn't seem, like you're saying, it doesn't seem like a natural pairing, but it really, I mean, we could technically keep this going even longer if we so choose. There's other films, and there's tons of...
Is that so? I mean, where else? I'm really having a hard time remembering...
Repo the Genetic Opera, at least.
Exactly, yeah.
And as far as stage plays go, there's Jekyll and Hyde. There's I forget what it's called. There's a musical version of Dracula. There's a stage version of The Fearless Vampire Killers called Dance of the Vampires, which is actually where we get the song Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Oh, yeah, the Jim Steinman. Well, listen, if we could figure out a way to do a film of Dance of the Vampires, I would love to see that. Absolutely.
I'm surprised in this era of remakes that somebody hasn't penciled that one in yet. But
do you know what else is in there? They've also, because that's all Jim Steinman music, all of it. So it's just one giant Meatloaf video with vampires, and they've also got what's the one that Taylor Dane, Original Sin, from The Shadow. Anyway, off the subject. But okay, well said. Yes, there's other musical horror. All right, that's and okay. So, but it seems to me that one of the dangers in mixing these two genres, as Tony said, you can sort of bounce off of or complement the horror of a horror world by having songs. But it seems to me with each of these, I've at least been the one to have a complaint about tone. That other than this one, which I thought nailed the tone exactly the way that I wanted this particular movie to nail it, I feel like with Little Shop of the Horrors, sometimes it was too broad. I felt that way about Phantom of the Paradise. Those two, I felt like sometimes there was this tendency to just to veer way over into, I don't even know exactly how to put it, this sort of overly dramatic, skit-like sort of acting. Now, that's not the case with at least half of it. It wasn't the case with Phantom of the Opera. It wasn't the case with Sweeney Todd. So, I don't know. It just seems to me one of the dangers is not being able to find the right.
What you're talking about, though, is specifically with Rocky Horror and Little Shop, and they are kind of poking fun at some of the overacting in B movies of the day, whereas Phantom and this one are sort of delivering straight gothic horror that just happens to be a musical on top of that.
Right.
I agree. I would go so far as to say that I don't apply that to Rocky Horror. I felt like Rocky Horror nailed its tone just fine. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. I was just agreeing.
So, all right. So, why don't we get our final thoughts?
Oh, I want to say before final thoughts. I want to say one really quick thing. One of my favorite songs. Oh, actually, can we do favorite songs when we do the final thoughts? Because that's always fun. But one of the songs I loved was when Johnny Depp and Alan Rickman are singing "Pretty Women" when he's like shaving him. I think that was such a great song because they have this beautiful harmony going, and it's like the sweetest, prettiest song, and it's this horrible subject matter. Whereas, they're basically just like total misogynist, but yet, and he's one of them's a rapist, and the other's mass murderer. But it sounds so pretty and sweet, and of course, Johnny Depp's trying to kill Alan Rickman. It's an interesting dichotomy.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm a big fan. So my favorite, I think, is "No Place Like London," which is the one that they sing as they arrive on the boat. I love songs that sort of trumpet the beginning of the story, which is what that one does. That these guys have arrived in London, and it's really well done. I loved that. So
there's also all the songs where a lot of them start out overlapping, where the characters are singing, way different lyrics and overlapping it almost like a round. And a lot of times they'll begin with, a very similar goal. Mm-hmm. And then later on, if they, reprise that song, they'll be singing a totally different goal or their own inner thoughts that overlap each other in the, where the melody will be the same, but the actual, what's sung is totally different and totally at odds. And so you see that character development like that. And that's really, really well done in this movie. And you don't see a lot of that outside of the stage. So at one point, this is less stagey than some that we've seen, But these songs were kept stagey in a way that you wouldn't do, I think, if you just created a new song. You know, a new movie with, you know, like if you created a Rock of Ages kind of thing, or, you know, or Moulin Rouge, where the songs are kind of tailored for making the movie.
Yeah.
And even though those are kind of cover tunes, they're still, you know, there's not a lot. There's not the complexity. And I think it's interesting that they kept that, because, you know, a lot of people, I mean, people have a hard enough time with subtitles in movies, much less, you know, a mass audience. And trying to talk down to anybody, it's just that even in general, there's a lot to keep up. It's a lot of these songs are kind of three-ring circuses of songs.
Wow. Well, that's Sondheim. I mean, you've got Steven,
exactly.
And he's this really, really ambitious writer. You know, he's the one who did Sunday in the Park with George, with that great piece called "Putting It All Together," which, you know, is sung by all these different people as they, you know, in that case, I think they're putting together an art show or something like that, and it's been lifted a million times. Yeah, this is one of the sort of heavy duty composers, and yeah, I mean, to some extent, it's just lucky that he did this piece, and it's kind of lucky that it got made, you know.
Yeah, well, it's ambitious. I mean, it's ambitious to do that level of complexity, and I think, you know, I'm not as adamant about as Drew is. I think everybody pulled it off myself, but and it's not easy, you know, to get that in a movie that. And you know, have these visuals and everything. It's pretty ambitious, and I think it really works.
Out of all the musicals that we've seen, I think I probably like this one the best. I think, in fact, this is just my final thought, and I won't even bother making a deeper final thought. This is the musical horror that I enjoyed the most out of all of them. It's the one that I like the music the most, and I like the tone the most, and it's that I would be most likely to just let play over and over again. This, you know, we've seen Little Shop, we saw Phantom of the Paradise, Phantom of the Opera, Rocky Horror. This is the one that to me, is the closest to a complete, well-made piece of work. But that's just my opinion. All right, and in fact, let's get these final thoughts. We'll go Julia, Drew, and Tony, and then we'll come around again for endorsements. Julia, final thoughts on Sweeney Todd?
Well, I mean, like I said, Johnny Depp is always going to make any movie a good movie for me. But and Tim Burton too. You know, I mean, it's just so fascinating to look at this movie just visually. I mean, there's this wonderful shot where they pull out with the I think it's Johnny Depp has pulled out his blade. He's saying, "My friend," you know, and he holds out his blade and points it, and he goes, "At last, my arm is complete again." And it pulls back out of the window. It's just one of those things where it's like just keeps pulling back until you can see like all of London. So great. So I mean, there's stuff like moments like that I just love. It is too bloody and gory for me. I could not, like you said, that letting it play over and over, and I'm like, oh God, that would be horrible. You know, just have nightmares. But I like the music. There's no song in this film that I've gotten stuck on and had running in my head. So there's nothing really catchy, but it's really good music. It's really interesting, and there's some neat pieces. So I like it.
Very cool. Drew, final thoughts? Sweeney Todd.
I like this movie. I think it's definitely one of the best movies that Tim Burton has done in the last decade or so, where a lot of people have. You know, he has a lot of fans that are saying that his quality has gone down, and you know, certainly there's some truth to that. But I think this would be one of the ones that I would hold up to say, well, you know, he still got it. Sweeney Todd was pretty good, and my favorite song in the movie is definitely "My Friends," which has the moment that Julia is talking about, because it is such a great, intense character moment. I think next to Ed Wood, I think this is the most fully realized character to come out of a Burton Depp teaming. And
you don't think Jack Jack from from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Well, that's not Johnny Depp though.
No, that's
no,
not
that
Depp,
was
right.
right.
That's Danny Elfman does the voice of.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of who would be a better. Maybe Ed Wood, but this guy seems more real than Ed Wood.
Ironically,
Ed Wood is very. Ed Wood has the whole movie has a very fairy tale type quality to it, even though it is based on a man's life story that's actually very depressing. This has a certain grittiness, yeah. It's a great film.
The lispy accent that Johnny Depp does as Ed Wood was annoying to me because, people don't talk that way. Nobody talks quite the way that he talked, and it just seemed
apparently
odd.
He based Ed Wood's speech patterns off of Ronald Reagan, but we should just do Ed Wood at some point.
I agree. We'll save it. Okay. So okay, we'll come back around for your endorsements. Tony, final thoughts on Sweeney Todd?
I definitely like this, like I said, better the second time. I think there's a lot of great stuff, and I'll agree that up until the new Frankenweenie, I hadn't really, I saw all the Tim Burton movies, well, I guess with the exception of Dark Shadows, and was kind of meh. And then I kind of picked this one back up and was like, oh yeah, this was really good. Lots of great moments. All of his signature things are there, but on display in a really great way. It's pretty ambitious, and it's to both have, like I said, the songs that it has and the level of gore, which that's an ambitious thing to do. I mean, an R-rated horror musical. Wow, how did Hollywood approve that?
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, as far as favorite songs, I can't think of one that I'm just like, oh yeah, that was the one. But that doesn't mean that's bad. It's just they're all just good and solid. And I think I agree with you that I think this is the most solid piece of all the musicals. As a whole, there's stuff I liked about other ones. There's great bits in Phantom of the Paradise, and I'll still hold out for that. And Little Shop of Horrors is awesome. But as far as it goes, this one I think is the best. I'd be more likely to watch the whole thing every time myself. I agree with you there.
Very cool. All right, so let's go around for endorsements here at the end of our 49th episode, as we probably take a week's break and then come back for our 50th. What are we watching? What are we loving? Julia, Drew, Tony, and me. Julia, what are you endorsing for us?
I don't know.
Denver?
I didn't really give it. Huh?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
I didn't really give it any thought. So instead of doing an endorsement, I'm going to give you another piece of trivia. It says here that the reason that they were going to include the spirit of Sweeney Todd's victims singing the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, and it was Anthony Head and Christopher Lee. Can you imagine? They actually recorded it. I'm just dying to see that. And it says they recorded it, but they were cut because Tim Burton thought the songs were too theatrical for the reprise. It says it's the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, its reprises and the epilogue were too theatrical for the film, and so they cut out Christopher Lee's appearance from the film. Anyway, so I guess I'll endorse us trying to find that somewhere and watching it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's on the
DVD.
That explains something that's been nagging at me for a long time, is the why that Anthony Head is in this in such a tiny part.
Yeah, that's what it says, uncredited one-line cameo.
How crazy. Okay,
I didn't even notice that. How funny.
That's a really good bit of trivia. Thank you very much. All right, Drew, endorsements?
Well, not so much an endorsement, although it is an endorsement, but as a kind of announcement of something pending. I am endorsing Bela Lugosi's Tales from the Grave, which is a Monsterverse, Kerry Gammel's Monsterverse comics, which we've talked about before. It's kind of an anthology series, a la Tales from the Crypt, although instead of the Crypt Keeper and the Old Witch and all that, you have Bela Lugosi. My good friend Terry Parr is going to be doing some covers for them, and he suggested that I talk to Kerry Gamble. He was like, well, you guys are into the same things. You would hit it off. You should come up with a 6-page script to submit and see what comes of it. So I wrote something, and I won't say what yet, but in a forthcoming issue of Bela Lugosi's Tales from the Grave, there will be a story written by me and drawn by Terry.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
That is
I'm very
fantastic.
excited about that. Second thing, I've been harping on this for the past 3 episodes, but I'll give it one more go. Punk vs. Rockabilly 3, this Sunday, South by Southwest. I'll be there. Tony will be there. You should be there.
Oh yeah, and we're opposite Jamie. So
yeah, you are.
What's the battle commence?
That sucks.
Wow.
Oh, it's all in fun.
It's all in fun.
It's all in fun. It's no real mean spirit.
Oh, I wish I could. Okay, Tony.
I'm glad that I can't go because I wouldn't be able to figure out which one to go to.
Yeah.
Well, no. It's done in rounds.
Yeah. It's not like you have one show in one room and one show in the other room.
No. It's round 2 is Picari Shred versus Danger Cakes.
Oh.
So we're learning a whole set of Japanese punk songs to be the punk versus Jamie's Rockabilly.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's going to be fun.
That's
actually the we're playing twice, and this one's the one I'm really, really looking forward to playing. So,
but what's great about that is that that's really a Castle Dracula podcast specialty, then, or delicacy, or something like that, because you've got 2 cast members are going to be literally competing against one another.
Yeah,
in a band-off.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Out of all the shows I put together every year, this is the one I always have the most fun with, and I'm really excited to have not only my wife involved, but Tony as well. And I've been wanting to see Picari Shred ever since he joined up with them, and it's never quite materialized. So I was like, well, heck with it. I'll just book them, and that way I get a chance to see it.
Yeah, and like I said, we're learning a whole punk set, and it runs the gamut from traditional kind of Misfits horror punk to kind of stuff that's a little bit more metal. I would say Rollins Band-esque more than Black Flag-esque, if that makes sense. So it should be pretty cool.
Very cool. All right. So, Tony, was that your endorsement?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. My endorsement actually is sort of oddball, but okay, on Netflix, which if you have broadband internet, you must you must do Netflix streaming. And one person I've discovered recently is a director named Roland. I think it's Jean Roland. Yes, Jean Roland. And the movie that I just watched a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm watching another one, it's called Lips of Blood. Jean Roland made a whole bunch of French vampire movies.
I've seen most of those, actually.
Oh, you have?
Late
Okay.
Night. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just great. I mean, they're so grungy, and they're so, and they're all shot on practical, crumbling castles in and around Spain and France, and there's all these people speaking French and lots of vampires, but it's this is old-fashioned vampire kind of stuff, because everybody's wearing, very sort of, they'll be wearing 70s outfits, but the vampires themselves, they got big teeth and they bite you and they torture you and they do all kinds of groovy, grungy Eurotrash stuff. So Netflix has basically rolled out a bunch of Jean Roland 1970s vampire flicks. And if you have half a mind to see a bunch of scantily clad, French-speaking, bloody vampires of the grungy Eurotrash type, then you're hooked up.
And by the way, it walks this weird line between highbrow, super surreal, artsy, and just kind of really sleazy.
Right,
really
the one that I started watching. I started watching Requiem for a Vampire about
Right.
a quarter of the way through it, and that one begins basically the two main female leads are bank robbers who begin by escaping a bank robbery and killing their getaway driver because he's wounded, and
Right.
they discover a castle where they meet some vampires. But what's really interesting is that for no reason that's ever explained, they are escaping this bank robbery dressed as clowns. So for the entire first half hour, they are literally dressed as clowns in clown outfits. They're like a couple of Piro dolls. And it's the weirdest thing in the world because they're Piro dolls with the revolver and they're going around castles. It is so foreign, like in the way that commercial used to ask, why must foreign movies be so foreign? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think because if you're going to watch this movie in the middle of the night, it has to keep you awake. It's amazing. So that's what Netflix is for.
Speaking of crazy, I actually have to say goodbye to the podcast so I can head to a movie about Bruce Lee battling all kinds of people in hell, and one of those people he aligns with is Emmanuel. I can't remember the rest, but it sounds insane.
I can't remember the rest. Who cares?
It's just
well, please
crazy.
tell me how that goes. I'm dying to know.
I'll fill you in.
Yeah.
And with that, I have to say goodbye, but we'll be back for our 50th episode.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Are we done?
We are done.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
That's all, folks.
Thanks, Drew.
Okay. Bye.